Männer. Es war ein langer Krieg. Es war ein harter Krieg. Ihr habt tapfer und stolz für euer Vaterland gekämpft. Seid eine besondere Truppe, die ineinander.
Hey everyone, this is Hydra Hut, and this is Frank Miller's Xerxes, The Fall of the House of Darius and the Rise of Alexander. So this is by Dark Horse Comics. Obviously it's written, drawn, illustrated, lettered by Frank Miller. We can see that it's by Dark Horse by turning it around. It's one of 5 issues. I think it's pretty cool that they slipped the Dark Horse trade dress to the back so he could do a full cover. I don't think it's a very good cover. Obviously this is Xerxes. It applies to the book in the fact that they are fighting the Persians through this whole book, but we never see Xerxes, we never meet Xerxes. They never make an appearance. So for the most part, as an opening paragraph, if that's how you want to look at the cover page, it's fake news. So anytime Frank Miller does something new, I'm usually pretty excited to give it a shot. He's, honestly, nowadays especially, he's kind of hit and miss. It's either going to be really good or really bland. But I always have this, like, sub-hope that it's going to be the next Ronin, which I think Ronin is fantastic. One of my favorite Frank Miller pieces. So that's kind of what I was hoping for with this, especially when I saw the kind of less than good art, because with Ronin he went very experimental with his art style and it worked well. I was hoping that would be something like what we're going to see here. Not quite so much though. So we get this nice opening spread. We can see the colors are by Alex Sinclair. Logo design is by Steve Miller. I'm assuming not the musician. And then story and art by Frank Miller. So the dialogue pacing is, I would say, very similar to the way 300 was and how you would read it. This kind of like narrated story. Yeah, you can see he's doing his own lettering here. It does some kind of unique panel layouts, which he ties together nicely with the way he sets up his lettering. I'll kind of show that later on. But this is a good idea of what kind of art to expect. A lot of good-looking stuff and a lot of very meh, lazy-looking stuff that I just don't like. It basically starts off covering some Athenians who are battling the Persians. Really, I guess it starts off with the Persians setting shore on a thin soil, but then we get to the soldiers of Athens attacking and bearing down on them, and they talk a lot about the Spartans, which I guess does kind of help to lend to that 300 feel that the book has. But really all they're using them as an example for how they are not anything like the Spartans. The Spartans are trained warriors. These Athenians are blacksmiths, farmers, peasants, people that are just trying to protect their home, which means they're fighting with everything they have to protect their home, but they're not the trained, merciless fighting force that the Spartans are. A lot of panels like this, which is, very dynamic posing. Some very dynamic fights like this, right? I just hate the way this guy looks. His art is very consistent, of course, because it's Frank Miller. But I just don't like it. Like here, we can see the stick is clearly like laid across the back of his head. Even though that's really not the most intelligent of ways to hold your fighting stick. But then like here, we see it's like going up between his legs and up behind him. I don't see how that is helpful in any way, shape, or form to splicing somebody in half. But this whole fight scene is basically introducing how talented of a fighter this dude is. They introduce their captain, who likes to fight with a sword and without his helmet. And he's always losing his helmet or finding some reason to get rid of it and draw a sword and bear down on people. The fighting is very bloody, which is cool and what I expect. And some of the art is very good. It's just I'm not a big fan of the way he's handling his characters in this, or especially some of these like far distant scenes. Also, I think the colorist is doing this digitally. A lot of the colors don't really look proper. They look much more digital, like this. Very much reminds me of digital brush strokes for that kind of coloring. Which there's nothing wrong with that. I just prefer non-digital coloring. I think it looks nicer. So, I mean, the story, like I said, it does beat along very well. It keeps you pulled in and whatnot, and it's not really boring. It's just, honestly, my biggest complaint is the distractingly poor art. And I feel a lot of people would say it's just something to expect with Frank Miller, but I've seen Frank do amazing artwork, and I've seen Frank do this kind of artwork, and I don't like this kind of artwork. It's just not appealing to look at. But the story is alright, and it'll probably turn into a fairly decent series, I guess. I don't like the way they're particularly hard on democracy in this, which, yeah, I understand that. I prefer republics to democratics. I prefer a republic to a democracy, but I don't know, just the whole dialogue between the main entity narrating is just kind of weird. Also, like, look how big these arrows and swords are in comparison to the shields and hands, and I mean, the anatomy's all correct. It's just so over proportioned for some reason. But I would say, all in all, it is a fairly solid, dark comic, but it bored the hell out of me for the most part. I don't know. This one's hard for me. I want to like it because it's Frank Miller, but I didn't enjoy reading it in the slightest. And I think that's given me a biased opinion on it. The fact that I want to like it, but I just can't. If you're a big Frank Miller fan, or you watch this review and you just don't agree with my opinion on the art, then by all means, go buy it, go check it out, support Frank. The dude's like 90 now. We need to keep him alive for as long as we can. The main reason I got this, though, is because he's doing that YA novel, or a series of YA novels for DC soon, and I'm sure they're just going to be giant dumpster fires. So I wanted to get this and see if maybe he was just going to put out like one last great work before he fully turned in his dick card and became part of the PC master race. And by that I mean political correct. This isn't what I was this wasn't what I was expecting. Not in the least. Don't know if I'll keep buying it. Probably not. I mean, it's $5. You are paying $5 for these kinds of double page spreads. $5 for this. Bask in the glory of your wealth. So, I'm gonna have to just not recommend this, guys. By all means, go out and buy it if you really want it, but I think you could spend that $5 somewhere else better. So, thanks for watching. Hail Hydra, baby.